But scientists claim that the mummy is so old that he couldn't possibly be related to the Paiute Shoshones, that the mummy's tribe was here thousands and thousands of years before anybody else.
They do not appear similar to any living Native American in North America. They have receding cheekbones, narrow face, long face. Some Indians have some of those traits, but as a group, those are Caucasoid traits.
The two sides are now caught in a catch-22. One way to prove kinship is through the DNA test, but the tribe doesn't want that because it would require further disturbance of the remains.
Nevada. The Great Basin Desert of Nevada, or more specifically the western Nevada area, is a dry, sandy environment that was covered with lakes and marshes after the last ice age. The area was ideal for the support of human life in prehistoric times, and the dry environment preserved very well an unusually large number of rich sites. The area has produced a number of skeletal remains and skulls that are clearly the remains of Caucasian people and have no relation to the present Indian population. The Spirit Cave mummy was discovered in Spirit Cave in Nevada, in 1940. It is a male who was approximately 40 years old at the time of death, and was found with artifacts including knives, baskets, and animal bones, 67 pieces in all. Also found were clothing and textiles which showed a degree of sophistication in material technology that rivaled any on the planet at the time, and was very unlike those used by American Indians. This mummy shows no similarity in skull shape to American Indian skulls. This mummy's skull appears Caucasian, and in 1994 was radiocarbon dated to 9,400 years old. The Northern Paiute Indians attempted to gain control of these remains in the 1990s under NAGPRA Law, and the U.S. Bureau of Land Management (BLM) conducted an extensive review of these remains. The craniometric research cited was conducted by Dr. Doug Ousley, a physical anthropologist at the National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., and his colleague Dr. Richard Jentz of the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. The findings indicated that Spirit Cave man's cranium most resembled the Norse, or a Caucasian person sampled from Norway, Europe. There was also a lesser resemblance to the Ainu people, a Caucasian-appearing people who live on the island of Hokkaido, Japan. The craniometric analysis suggested that this person was unrelated to current-day Paiutes or other Indians. Further, when analyzed, its skull shape, type of textiles buried with the body, and method of burial were all significantly different from that of the Paiute Indians, suggesting these 9,400-year-old remains are from a different people. Other evidence analyzed such as hair type and dental patterns of the mummy, proved to be inconclusive. Spirit Cave mummy currently resides at the Nevada State Museum in Carson City, Nevada.
Meanwhile, a mummy 3 times older than King Tut has been discovered in the Nevada desert. It was found in 1940, about 12 miles east of the town of Fallon. It's a discovery that could possibly unlock some of humankind's early mysteries. But tonight on Special Assignment, Channel 3's Vince Sterla tells us scientists may never get a chance to unlock those mysteries.
The excavation with your arms, your shoulders.
Outside of Fallon, Nevada, the curious have come to learn more about an ancient society of people who once called this cave home.
They discovered that the cave was underwater when it was formed 20,000 years ago until 7,000 years ago.
Not far from this cave, a mummy has been discovered. A mummy that may reveal the secrets of an even older society, one that dates back to the dawn of civilization.
This is extremely significant. This is unprecedented. We haven't had a find of this importance in my lifetime.
One thing that makes the mummy, known as the Spirit Cave Man, so important are these fine hand-woven fabrics discovered at the burial site.
These textiles represent an extremely sophisticated ability to weave fabric by hand in a time where we didn't realize that people were doing that before.
The mummy was discovered tightly bound up in this matting. Out of respect for the dead, this photograph, and this drawing are the only two pictures scientists will allow to be publicly displayed. Recent tests reveal that the mummy is 9,000 years old. That's 3 times older than any other mummy yet discovered in North America. That news has stunned archaeologists because a mummy can tell scientists how people back then lived, what diseases they had, even what food they ate. Scientists can get that information by studying the mummy's DNA. That requires cutting a small piece of tissue from the body.
But it shouldn't be done.
And that, says Paiute Shoshone tribal leader Alvin Moyles, is desecrating the dead. In Moyles' case, maybe even a dead relative. So in your mind, this is an ancestor?
That is true.
The mummy was discovered near Paiute Shoshone land. Moyles believes the mummy's spiritual journey has been disturbed and that the spirit cannot find peace until the body has been properly reburied.
You are bothering the spirit. They're not to be bothered. They're put to rest, and that's where they should be left.
But scientists claim that the mummy is so old that he couldn't possibly be related to the Paiute Shoshones, that the mummy's tribe was here thousands and thousands of years before anybody else.
They do not appear similar to any living Native American in North America. They have receding cheekbones, narrow face, long face. Some Indians have some of those traits, but as a group, those are Caucasoid traits.
The two sides are now caught in a catch-22. One way to prove kinship is through the DNA test, but the tribe doesn't want that because it would require further disturbance of the remains.
I don't believe that the society today, majority of the people that have people buried in your culture would like to have your grandparents dug up because some scientist wants to come through and study it.
Whether or not scientists ever get to study the mummy is a matter for the U.S. government's Bureau of Land Management to decide.
The DNA evidence would be definitive for ruling out certain groups. You can't necessarily prove with it which group it was, but you can rule out contending parties.
Until a decision can be made, the mysterious spirit cave mummy will remain trapped in limbo.
Yeah, he's kind of in the legal, spiritual, ethical limbo.
In Carson City, Nevada, Vince Sterla, Channel 3 reports.
Even mummies can't avoid the law and bureaucracy, it appears. Many archaeologists agree it's entirely possible the mummy is not related to any existing tribe in North America.
Yeah, it sounds like the mummy predated most of the Indian tribes from that part of the country.
Lovelock, Nevada, is about 80 miles northeast of Reno. It was in a cave there, in 1911, that Baguano miners found mummies, bones, and artifacts buried under 4 feet of bat excrement. The desiccated bodies belonged to a very tall people, with red hair. Look at the Lovelock cave skull, which is long, thin and narrow, the features of a Caucasian skull, and not the physical profile of your typical American Indian. The local Paiute Indians had legends about these tall people, whom they called the CTCA. According to the legends, these people had red hair and spoke a language different from the Indian tribes. These legends reported that multiple Indian tribes joined together in a long war against them, ultimately exterminating them in the Lovelock cave region, by cornering them in a cave, piling sticks and brush at the mouth of the cave, and igniting these materials to then kill these people inside. In the early 1900s, mining engineer and amateur archaeologist John T. Reed took an interest in the remains of the CTCA and did his best to document the finds as they were unearthed. He also interviewed many locals who had knowledge of the affair. It was reported in Lovelock Cave that in 1887, while chasing wild horses in the area, John T. Reed, a mining engineer in Lovelock, camped there with a few Indians overnight. One of the Indians told Reed about the great calamity that had occurred in that cave to another race of people who had been exterminated by the Paiutes. Mr. Reed reported that, "I was informed that about 4 or 5 generations back the Indians fought to extermination a people who were red-headed and who spoke their own language." On page 2 of the book Lovelock Cave, Mr. Reed reported that during that adventure, he was told an old northern Paiute man recently died at Stillwater who is said to have taken part in that battle, and to have had one eye shot out by an arrow in one of the charges on the cave mouth. Remember that this Paiute Indian legend is retold in both the account with Mr. Reed, in the early 1900s, and Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins, in her book published in 1883. Further, the actual Lovelock cave remains were found in 1911, in a location and cave predicted by that legend. It should be noted that similar to the Kennewick Man saga in the 1990s, the archaeological establishment of the time was hostile to the idea of non-Indian remains showing Caucasians in the Americas at a much earlier time. Upon notifying authorities of the Lovelock remains in 1911, 2 investigators were sent to the scene. One was from the University of California, and the other from New York. Rather than unearthing facts, they seem more interested in burying them, literally. We are told the New Yorker ordered a mummy reburied on at least one occasion. Additionally, nothing was published about the very important Caucasian findings until 1929, 17 years after their visit. These remains are thought to be currently in the possession of the North Central Nevada Historical Society, which operates the Humboldt Museum in Winnemucca, Nevada. As with many other ancient Caucasian mummies and remains, all are in danger of being confiscated by non-Caucasian local Indian tribes under NAGPRA, buried and lost forever. Fortunately, the images of these ancient non-Indian peoples remain, and as can be seen, are clearly ancient Caucasian peoples.